Good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome back to Sherburne Public Library's Book Talk. This week, we're starting the new year off with nonfiction books. So we've got at least 3 here to recommend to you or not recommend and talk to you about. With me, I have Miranda, who is our children's librarian, and I have Megan, who is a library clerk with us. So here we go. I'm going to do mine first. The book that I chose is The Greatest Beer Run Ever. Now, when I first saw this, I thought, well, that doesn't seem very interesting to me, but I talked to our other librarian, Kathleen, and she suggested this might be a good book. So I looked through it, and it is kind of a really cool, interesting, real thing that happened. Back in 1967, a bunch of guys were hanging out at a bar in New York City, and they were lamenting the fact that there were a lot of Vietnam protesters, and saying that the guys didn't deserve that. They deserved more. We ought to be able to take some beer over there and sit down and have a beer and let them know how much we appreciate them. Well, they decided that they were going to try and do that. So this one guy, John Chick is what his nickname, Donahue. He was a U.S. Marine Corps guy, and he found a way to get to Vietnam, and he found several of their hometown boys, as they would call them, and he took beer to them. He actually picked up some beer, before he left. That was kind of localish beer, Pabst Blue Ribbon. I can't even remember all of them, but they were some, American beers. So, because he figured they deserved that instead of just the whatever kind of swill they were getting in Vietnam. So he did that, and he was, he got caught up in a lot of things that happened. Of course, it was a lot harder than they expected it to be. They didn't anticipate, the kind of hurdles they'd have to go through. But he went on his own. He finagled his way onto a ship and went over there and said, I'm going to take a couple days leave. I've got to go in and, I don't know, he made up some excuse. And the guy said, yeah, you got to be back here by Monday morning. I don't think he made it back on Monday morning. It took a lot longer than he thought it was going to take. So it's a cool concept. And I know there's talk about this being made into a movie. So it seems like perfect for a movie to me. So I would recommend this. And also the other thing I would talk about is the way it reads. It reads very much as if you're sitting with a guy at the bar and he's telling you his story that he did, that he went through with his buddies. And it's very entertaining. It's very easy to read. It's a fairly short book. I think it's 240, 50 pages. So it's really short, simple read, easy to read, but a lot of fun. So, and it has a lot of, other, not just fun stuff in it. Talks about some really serious stuff that happens. There's also a few pictures in it of him when he was, there and meeting some of the guys. I mean, it's hard to see. These are black and white, and they were taken in 1967. So, but it does give you a real sense to what it was really like for him to do that. So I highly recommend. It's The Greatest Beer Run Ever, and it's by John Chick Donahue, one of the guys, and J.T. Malloy. So it's a memoir of friendship, loyalty, and war. So highly recommend. So that's my little recommendation.
Sounds like a great story. I love that.
I do too.
Figuring out the logistics of doing that, though, that's pretty crazy.
I think nowadays you couldn't do that, because he was able to get through on, I think things were just a little more lax because of things we didn't have all the experience of, terrorism and security that we do now. And so I think he was able to do a lot more than we would ever get away with now.
Right.
But that kind of made it more fun. And I think it definitely reads like it could be a movie. I mean, I could see it definitely, you're reading it and you're like visualizing it. So, like I said, it was like a good story that some guy at the bar, your friend at the bar, was telling you. So
I remember when this came in and I didn't I didn't really know what it was about, but now that I'm hearing what it's about, I think that'll be really good for we have a lot of people that are really interested in history and the different wars. So I think
Uh-huh.
that could be a nice, maybe a lighter read in those genres,
Yeah.
maybe.
I think so too. Yeah, those guys who love the World War II history books that we get in, or the Vietnam War stuff that we get in often. I think that anybody who likes that stuff would like this, because it's definitely a guy telling a story. It's not like a girl's story where it's flowery and all that. It's just very plain, very, this is what we did, and it's kind of entertaining because of the way he tells it, you know. So it's like your favorite storyteller at the bar. So awesome. All right. Okay, Miranda, I think you were going to go next.
Yep. So I am currently reading a book called Leave Only Footprints. It's written by Connor Knighton, who I guess works for CBS Sunday Morning. I didn't realize that when I picked it up, but so in this book, he writes about the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service, which was, I think, in 2016, if I remember right. Um, and he pitches to CBS to do a segment where he goes and visits all of the national parks. And I wrote it down, there are 59 of them total. And his goal was to visit all of them in 1 year. So he starts off his year on January 1st. He goes to Acadia National Park, and one of their mountains there is the first place to see the sunrise. So that's how he starts off his year, which is kind of a cool way to do that. But then he goes on to all these other places, and some of the national parks aren't necessarily what you might typically think of a national park. Like, you of course have your big names like the Sequoias or Yellowstone, but there are a couple that I had never heard of that were very interesting. So there's one called Biscayne Bay National Park in Florida, and it's 95% water. So he actually gets his scuba diving license because, like, the real feature of the park is underwater. And it's full of coral reefs, but there are also tons of shipwrecks in this bay. So there's all of these sunken ships with like historical things that are just like, it's like a time capsule. So you can go down there, and that's a trail that you can follow, and they drop you off at different points to go down and see different shipwrecks, which is really cool. Um, and there are some other cool ones too, like Death Valley National Park. At this one particular spot that's kind of hidden, it's called Devil's Hole, and there's the Devil's Hole pupfish, which is an endangered species of fish that you can only find in this one spot because it's adapted to a very, very unique microclimate there. So it's just really cool to hear about all of these different wonderful things that we have here in the United States. And some of it isn't stuff that you would typically think of for a national park. So it's a really interesting read. I highly recommend it.
That sounds really amazing. I love the national parks. In 2016, we actually took a trip across the country. We went to Seattle, and we drove across, and we stopped at several of them. I've been through Death Valley, but it was when I was real young, and I just remember that it was super hot. But I think that's kind of interesting that there's actually like a fish that lives there, because to me, it's, in my mind, it was just desert. So the idea that there's just this specific, place that this one fish lives, that's amazing. And I didn't know anything about the one in Florida. I mean, I know there's the Florida Keys, and there's it's very just water and swampy land, but I didn't realize there was like coral and all of that. I guess I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah, you're right. We do have some amazing things in our country to go see. I mean, honestly, you could spend your whole life just going around our country and looking at all the different sites that we have. We have such a variety of things. It's great. That's wonderful.
And that's what's interesting is how diverse it is just in this country too.
Yeah.
So that would be really interesting to see all of them.
Yeah.
And just how,
I know.
yeah, how different they are.
Oops, sorry. He only focuses on the national parks, but like the Park Service does so much more. They have tons of like historical sites and monuments and stuff. But he's like, he could never do all of those in a year, so he just focused on the national parks.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how he did them all in a year. That's not a lot of time for traveling and seeing everything. I mean, we saw a few on our way out, but wow, it takes a lot of time, you know. But oh, that's great. What a cool thing. I would love to do that. That would be my dream, travel around the country and just visit everything, you know.
Right.
That would be the best. Maybe someday when I'm retired and, you know, hopefully still in good health. So, okay, great. Megan, you want to give us yours?
Yep. So I guess mine is somewhat similar, interestingly. So my book is Classic Krakauer, Essays on Wilderness and Risk by John Krakauer. So Krakauer is a journalist and an author, and he's mostly covered the outdoors and various outdoor activities throughout his career. He's probably, I think, best known for writing Into Thin Air. He was part of a climbing expedition in the 90s on Everest, and it ended up being one of the worst disasters on Everest because there was a storm and several people in the party died on Everest. He obviously did not, but he had been sent there so that he could write an article about climbing Mount Everest, and he ended up writing an entire book. So that's what Into Thin Air is. But basically, this book is a collection of his articles that he wrote over the years. He's written for lots of different magazines. Outside, Smithsonian, The New Yorker, I remember those. So this book is just a collection of some of those articles. And I would say mostly his genre that he writes in is outdoor activities, mountain climbing, sort of risk taking. I have a quote from Publishers Weekly about this book. They said, depicting adventures of climbing, surfing, and caving, the essays address why some people are drawn to pursue dangerous feats and to push themselves until something inevitably goes wrong. So I think what's really great about his writing style is that he's a really good storyteller, and he's really good at describing things. So he makes you feel like you're really there. And you don't want to be in a lot of these places because they're dangerous and really remote. But it's really great writing, and he's also really good about describing the people he meets. And this book is really great because each chapter is a separate article or essay, I guess you could say. So you're getting lots of different stories. It's not one long story. And like I said, he did travel to all these places. So he really is able to describe them really well and also give you a full story. And then you don't have to go to these often dangerous places, I guess. So I definitely recommend this one. I remember really liking Into Thin Air when I read it in high school. I didn't think I was going to, but I really did. And I really like his writing style. So definitely recommend this one.
Yeah, that seems like a combination of the two books kind of that we just talked about because there's this exploring and then there's the writing and interesting storyteller kind of thing. So
yeah,
that's very cool. Yeah, he also wrote Into the Wild, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
and I know that was a big movie. So
I actually read Into Thin Air as well, and I really liked it. It was like heart-wrenching to like read such a realistic story where so many people risk themselves to go on this great adventure and it doesn't work out. But like you said, Megan, he is a really good storyteller. You really feel like you're there with him. So I could see where reading that collection of different stories would be really good. It's going to be one I think I'll have to check out.
Yeah,
definitely. Before we go, I just want to mention this, just an honorable mention, I guess I'll call it. It's called I Heart Soul Food. And I don't know, it's 100 Southern comfort food favorites. Honestly, this is like just really good food. So, I wouldn't let the title like dismay, put you off from it. It has got some really, really good home cooking type food that the comfort food, like she says, that you would eat. It's by Rosie Mays. I think she is an online kind of sensation when it comes to cooking. But it's just got a lot of the traditional Southern type foods. But a lot of those foods are comfort foods that we all eat and depend upon. So, fried chicken and macaroni and cheese and all that kind of stuff. So just wanted to say this is in our library too, and you might like that if you like to cook like I do. Well, I just wanted to welcome you all back for the new year, and hope that you'll look forward to our book talks, which will come out every Monday at 10 o'clock on Facebook. Next week what is next week? Do you guys remember?
New mystery.
Mystery. Thank you. Yes. So next week we'll be doing that. So we hope you will come and join us, and we hope you've enjoyed our talk today. So thanks and have a good day. Bye.